Well, good afternoon. I'm Tim Ryan, the president of the Honda Center. It's my pleasure to officially welcome the UFC and all of you back to Orange County. We've had an incredible partnership with Dana, the entire UFC organization over the years, and we've been thrilled to share some of the most historic moments. Those include hosting the first ever UFC event in the state of California, the first UFC event on Fox, 2 heavyweight title fights, and now the first ever women's title bout in UFC history. It goes without saying that Orange County and the Honda Center, we love the UFC. We're looking forward to another packed house on Saturday night. We can't wait to feel the energy of another night of history in the making. It's my pleasure right now to introduce a friend of mine, a true sports visionary, and you know him as the president of the UFC, Dana White. Dana?
How about now? There we go. All right. Late stuff doesn't work. Starting this thing off right. So we're excited, pumped up for this fight. This is without a doubt the most media attention we've ever had leading up to a fight, without a doubt. And when I talk about media attention, I'm talking about big time media. And I told some of you yesterday when we talked, this gate beat the last gate when we were here, which was the heavyweight championship between Cain Velasquez and Eugenio Dos Santos. And, I know there was a lot of smack talk in the originally when I announced this fight about headlining with 2 women. Well, again, I said what would happen, and here we are. This gate's bigger, and there's been all this talk about pay-per-view buys and wondering how the women would do. I just talked to Lorenzo, and this fight is trending very well. So to all the people, all the naysayers, and everybody who said this and that about 2 women headlining a fight, I won't be rude, but you know what I usually say about this. Very well. Better than everybody thought it would do. You know you're not getting the number anyway, but you know what I'm saying. It's going to be a big fight. Who has the first question? John?
Dana, obviously the build-up to this fight, the videos and everything, they've shown you over and over with the clip where you said, never would there be women's MMA. What do you feel like when you see that now? Do you cringe when you see that video, or what do you think?
No, I don't. It's funny because, I said that on TMZ, and every interview that I have done leading up to this fight this week, they played that clip and said where I said never. And actually, the way that I look at it is, there's a lot of, not just me, but there was a lot of people that felt very negative about women fighting in the sport. And then I didn't realize how many people would be so negative about 2 women headlining a card. But after I did my homework and I saw some of these fights, I got into it and I met the girls, it is the right thing to do. And I'm proud to be standing here today announcing, that this fight is going to happen in 2 days.
And I've heard this week a lot of comparisons actually to Brock Lesnar as far as the amount of interest in somebody debuting in the UFC. Is that a fair comparison? And
no, she blows him out of the water. No fighter has ever fought in the UFC that has had more attention than she has. It's a fact. And honestly, going into this thing, I didn't know that would happen. I think HBO and Time Magazine and all these other outlets that never cover us would. I didn't see that happen. And if they did, I didn't think it was going to be positive. I thought it was going to be freak show. Nobody pulled the freak show card. Nobody has really smashed the main event on this card, and it's been pretty cool.
And last question for you: everybody's trying to figure out, going forward, what does it mean if Ronda wins? What does it mean if Liz wins?
Right.
How does that impact women's MMA? How much do you think the future? I know you have more fights already booked, but how much do you think the future of women in the UFC hinges on what happens in this one fight?
Well, I think that's crazy. I mean, and that's the thing that I had to point out to everybody: the commitment that we made to women's MMA. Ronda gets a lot of attention, and Ronda has been, a lot of the story that people want to hear, but 2 women are going to fight on Saturday night, and one of them's going to win. And whoever wins will then defend the title. I mean, that's the way it works. It's no different than if two guys were fighting tonight, you know. And I think if you watched the second episode of Primetime, you know, I think Lucia Riker said it best. You know, in any sport, there's a couple people that really stand out and become big stars, and that's true in this sport or any other sport. And she has definitely been that person, not just in women's fighting, in MMA in general. HBO wasn't coming to try to do stories on us. I flew from Las Vegas to Los Angeles because they asked me to, sat down and interviewed for an hour. They didn't put one word of what I said in there. I might as well stay at home. You know what I mean? They want to talk to her. So, I like it. Next question.
Question for Lyoto, if I could, please. Lyoto, I wanted to ask you about sort of your striking defense record. You know, if you look at the fight metric stats in your first 7 UFC fights, you were well above average, the hardest guy to hit. In your last 6 fights, you're hit much more often. Why do you think that is, and is there anything in your game that you've worked on to try to change to get back to that elusiveness that you had early on?
Ele perguntou o que você acha que mudou na sua defesa em pé, que nas suas primeiras lutas no UFC você tinha um recorde de ser o menos atingido. O que mudou no seu jogo de ser elusivo?
Eu acho que lógico, quanto mais você luta, mais previsível você vai ficando, né? Então, acho que as pessoas estudam bastante também e eu acho que é normal, você está lutando no alto nível, então isso pode acontecer.
I think the more that you fight, the more predictable you become, and people study you more. So people just kind of learn what you're going to do, and you're more prone to get hit.
So when they learn that, you know, it's like in baseball, they say you have to make an adjustment to a pitcher. So what adjustment do you make? Because you're facing a guy that probably has one of the best right hands in the sport.
E quando você vê isso, que você mudou no teu jogo para encarar dos caras que pode ser mais perigoso com o teu jogo?
Eu acho que eu sempre estou mudando o meu jogo, sempre estou tentando melhorar, né? E eu trouxe alguns sparring parecidos um pouco com o jogo do Dan Henderson, para que eu possa me adaptar ao estilo, né, que eu me adaptei.
I'm always trying to improve, and this time I brought a bunch of different partners that could simulate Dan Henderson's style.
And then one more question for you, Lyoto. You know, you had the opportunity to fight Jones and you felt like there wasn't enough time. What do you think would be different if you beat Dan and got the opportunity to fight Jones? How would you fight him differently for the title, since you know what happened the first time around?
Como é que seria lutar com o John Jones agora pela segunda vez? O que seria diferente?
Com certeza eu ia mudar algumas coisas, né? Mas é difícil falar porque ele não é o meu próximo passo, né? Eu só estou focado realmente no Dan Henderson, e quando isso vier a acontecer um dia de novo, aí sim eu posso falar sobre.
I think definitely a lot of things would be different, but it's hard to say right now. My focus is on Dan Henderson, and that's another step in my career.
And then, Dana, a couple of questions for you. First of all, the significance of the fight for Lyoto. He's been, you know, win one, lose one, that type of thing. What do you need to see from him on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a win is a big deal, but I love this fight. Stylistically, I think it's a great fight. You know, Machida has a style where he lays back and counterpunches, and Henderson is moved forward. He's aggressive, in your face the entire time. I think that the fight's going to be a great fight, and this fight's all about the winner. The winner gets a shot at John Jones.
And then lastly, talking about the women going forward, and, you know, kind of the women behind me.
Yeah, that's why they're here. The ladies, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Again, when I was talking about the commitment to the women's division, these women are here right here. You got Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon, Alexis Davis, and Kat Zagano. So if any of the media wants to talk to them, they're all right here in the second row when we're done and start doing the scrums. But go ahead, Kev, sorry.
And I guess I was going to compare it to sort of like when you brought the bantamweights on. You know, the UFC fans maybe didn't know the bantamweights other than the hardcore ones. So how do you integrate them in to get these people so they're big, so that when they fight the champion, whether it's Liz or Ronda, that people know who they are?
Yeah, it's no different than anything we've done since the beginning when we bought this company. You know, we put fights on free TV, and we put fights on pay-per-view. And you know, like I said, these women are talented. They belong here, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna fight on a card, whether it's pay-per-view, undercards, or on free TV, and they're gonna prove it. Just like every other person that's come into the UFC. People were mad when we went below 155, and then they're gonna go below 145, and now they're bringing in women. Shut up. Shut up, all right? We know what we're doing. Tune in, watch the fights. These people have been training their whole lives. They're the best in the world, and that's why they're here.
Hey guys, Ron Kruk with Access TV. Question for Robbie Lawler. Robbie, it's been almost 10 years since you last fought in the UFC, UFC 50. Talk about coming back and just what it means for you being a part of the promotion again.
It's very. Is this on? Can you hear me? It's very exciting. I didn't realize it was that long. Makes me feel old. I'm excited to fight. I've been training hard, and this is a great opportunity, and happy to be here.
How about some thoughts about your opponent, Josh Koscheck?
Josh has got a lot of fights in the UFC. He's a big, strong wrestler, strong stand-up, and it's going to be a war. I'm ready to go.
And a quick question for Dana. Dana, do you know, are we approaching a sellout here in Anaheim?
Yeah. We're a few hundred tickets away from a sellout. And the gate's so big because all the tickets that have sold, the ones that are left are all the cheap seats, which is very unusual. Usually you get in these situations and it's more the middle tier seats that are the ones that are still hanging out there. These are all the cheapest seats in the place. So this is going to be a sellout.
Hi, this is Rafa from Univision. Question for Rhonda and Liz. You know, everything's being mentioned here about how big this card is, how historic, and how much is on the line for women's MMA. Can you put into words what it means to you guys to be part of this, the biggest women's MMA fight today?
It's an honor. I mean, this is a dream come true. This is something that when I first got into MMA that I imagined being a part of history. And for that dream to be only days away, I can't even put in words really describing what it is. It's an honor, and I'm grateful for the experience and excited to be here.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what she said. I'm very honored to be here, and this is a huge deal, but I'm not really going to sit back and enjoy and relish any of this until after the fight's already done and I've won.
How about you, Dana? What was the trigger point for you to make the never become a reality in women's MMA?
Well, like I said, and I've always been straight up and honest about it. When I met her, that was the moment. I said that, you know, she's the real deal. And the H.E.A.T fight, you know. I was talking to somebody about, I did a radio show this morning, and we were talking about, you know, how guys are perceiving the women, okay? I said 99% of the guys in this country get in the same armbar that H.E.A.T was in, okay? Not only would they tap, they'd be screaming and crying like babies. She got out of that armbar, the first one, got in the second one, cranked back like that, and you know, that's something different. It's something that most people don't have, and what that is, that's what makes you a real fighter. You either are or you are not. And from what I've seen from these girls who have fought, they are. You know what I mean? You don't see people get put in an armbar like that and handle it the way that she handled it. Pretty badass.
Question for the guys, the legends on the table. What do you guys think about women's MMA? I know George St. Pierre got into a little trouble with Misha and you and Rhonda about, you know, his opinions about women's MMA and women's fighting. What do you guys think about this fight card Saturday night?
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm a fan. I've got women that train at my gym all the time, and you know, are hoping to get where these women have got. So, I mean, I'm a big fan, and you know, I'm excited that I get to watch the last fight after I'm done.
Eu acho que assim, o UFC um dia ia chegar esse momento de abrir as portas para o público feminino também lutar, e eu fico feliz de fazer parte desse evento, sendo parte também do card do evento principal, sendo as mulheres.
I believe there would come a time when the UFC would open its doors to the women fighting, and I'm happy to be on this card with women headlining it.
I think it's a good thing for our sport. You know, like Dana said, it's bringing a lot of new attention to the sport. You know, and a lot of new media, and you know, hopefully they can build a good enough group of girls that can come in and compete at the top level. So, you know, I think it's good for our sport.
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. These girls have trained hard. I mean, you've seen some of these girls fight. They go out there and they bang it out. They're doing everything else everyone else is doing, and women's sports, it's going to grow, definitely.
Dana, what do you think about Liz's fans really, pulling for her to get this fight? We saw on the video it looked pretty intense. They were really trying to get her to the fight.
What are you talking about? Maybe I missed that one. What, her fans were?
Yeah, on Twitter apparently there was like a big, effort to get Liz to fight. Did you know about her before this?
Yeah, I knew about her. Yeah, we had started diving into this thing and looking at who we thought the top girls were, and who made sense for this fight and the time. Again, it's all about timing and everything else. And Liz was perfect. And I told Liz, I told her, I couldn't be happier with the two women that are representing the first fight in UFC history. You know what I mean? If you look at both of their stories, and I think that this prime time that we did is one of the best we've ever done. It's impossible to watch this show and not be invested in a fight and want one or the other to win. So the answer is yes. I mean, I literally, and you know how I am. I'll tell you guys if I didn't feel a certain way. I could not be happier with the way that this entire thing has gone, and I know it's just the beginning of good things to come.
Question for Rhonda over here in the corner. Your mom said earlier this week that when you first told her you wanted to be an MMA fighter, her response was, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard." Do you remember that conversation, and what was your response to that?
Yeah, I remember that conversation very well, and I expected her reaction to be as such. But because she was working at USC at the time, and she wanted to help me go to school and stuff like that. And I just asked her to give me 1 year. That's all I asked for. I knew that it sounded ridiculous, and I knew that no one believed that it would go anywhere. And I just said that if after this 1 year, if I can't make it happen, then I'll go to school, do whatever you want. And so my pro debut was March 23rd, 2011, and I won the title on March 3rd of 2012. So ever since then, I mean, it kind of feels good to make I don't know if my mom ever said I was wrong and you were right, but I like to think that her look in her face says that a little bit. It was really nice to do that. It was fun because now me and her have a much different relationship, and there's a lot more respect between the two of us.
So she never officially came up to you before the Tate fight or after and said, "All right, this was a smart move"?
No, she said that she was extremely proud of me, and that's all I needed to hear.
And then one for Robbie over here. Why decide at this point in your career to go down to 170?
Really, guys were cutting a lot of weight, and I was just kind of walking around at the weight I was fighting at, which I like to do. I just like to fight and compete, and I think for me to fight at a high level, I think I need to cut a little bit of weight, and I knew I was going to come back to the UFC, and I wanted to cut down to 170 when I did it.
How was the weight cut?
Well, I'm not down there yet, but it'll be easy.
And it seemed to me when you were fighting for Elite XC, Strike Force, we would watch you, you would be cornering guys, you'd say hi to Dana on the stage at the weigh-ins and whatnot. I always got the impression that you always wanted to come back here, end your career here. Is that accurate?
Yeah, this is the big show. I think the first time I was here, I didn't really want to do everything. I just wanted to fight. Just come in here and fight. I didn't want to do the PR. I didn't want to talk to the media. Now I think I'm ready for that, and I'm excited to be here.
Okay, and then just one last one for Josh. Obviously, with your change of camps, we're always interested in who's in your corner on fight night. Who will be in your corner on Saturday?
Jasper, my Muay Thai coach, Bob Cook, and T, my boxing coach. So I got a good group of guys I'm working with, and I'm really excited.
Thanks.
Those questions for Dana here. UFC's audience is about 25% female. What is your hope for the female demographic going forward after this fight?
It's interesting. This thing is, we've never done it before. Who knows? I mean, will women fighting make more women want to watch fighting? I don't know. We're more 135-pound guys watching after we did the 100. I don't know. You know what I mean? Hopefully it does. That's what I would like to see. And I think, but what I do think is going to happen, like I've been saying, she came from judo, went to the Olympics. There's women who wrestle. There's women who do taekwondo. There's women who do other martial arts. And the fact that you can come here now and actually make a living and make money and remain a professional athlete, I think is going to have a huge impact on the sport. If you look at how much the sport has grown and how many people train and how many fighters there are all over the world now after just 13 years, and if you look at how much the men have evolved in those 13 years, and now you see all these women out here that are really that talented, I think it's really going to blow up over the next few years. It's pretty interesting.
And for Liz and Ronda, how much of your interaction with fans has been with females directly?
I would say it's just about a split. There is certainly more men that follow the UFC and are MMA fans that approach, but through social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, I've certainly had a lot of women that have approached and given lots of support for this.
And sorry, I lost eye contact with the guy who asked the question.
Right.
There you are. Yeah, it's been about 50-50, and considering, like I said before, that women really make up a quarter of the UFC fan base, that it's been half and half. I think there really are a whole lot more women involved in this fight. I've seen a lot of feedback saying that a lot of girls are watching their first UFC fight, or they're pooling together to have a UFC fight party, things that they've never done before. So I think that this is bringing a whole lot of new fans in as well.
AJ Perez, FoxSports.com. As for Ronda, you said this week on UFC Primetime that you kind of are driven by proving people wrong. At this point, who do you have left to prove wrong?
Well, all the people that think that I don't deserve this belt and I didn't earn it, I partially agree with them. I think that I won't consider myself really UFC champion until I win a belt inside the octagon, and that's why you're not going to see me touching or carrying that belt until after I win this fight.
Thanks.
I have no clue. I don't know what it is. Somebody in my company probably knows. I don't. Anybody in my company that's here know that answer? 80%. She said 80% of statistics are made up. Huh? 35. Information. 35.
Well, it's 2011.
Kidding, I don't know. Who the hell knows? I hope it's 55. Any other questions? That's it? You're done with us? All right, I'm going to rip this stuff out of here and we'll square these guys off for photo ops.